Hello, my name is India and welcome back to my channel. Today we are doing a little book recommendation video based on my on repeat Spotify playlist. I'll put up some screenshots right here of what my playlist looks like. We've got some Magdalena Bay on there. We've got some Claude, some Haley Knox, some Caroline Rose, some Phoenix, Sabrina Carpenter, Charlie XCX, a little bit of Troye Sivan, a little bit of Caroline Polachek, like a good representation of what I'm listening to right now. And I wanted to make a video recommending books based on the songs and albums that are like on this playlist. So first of all, let's talk about Magdalena Bay's current or like new album, Imaginal Disc. This is so good. I've been listening to it on repeat. I think it's amazing. I really like Magdalena Bay and just think their stuff is so fun and just like creative and nice and really good. So let's talk about my stack of books that I would recommend based on Imaginal Disc. I like a lot of songs on there. I love Killing Time. I love Image, True Blue Interlude, and She Looked Like Me. All of the songs are really fantastic. The album itself is, from a quick little preliminary Google search, it has this narrative of a woman who gets this disc inserted in her and is either trying to like discover herself after the fact or like in spite of this like download, I guess. If you know more about this, please let me know. But that was just my preliminary research. A lot of the themes of the album are like self-discovery and like consciousness and thought. I don't know. So I kind of took that into my mind while I was thinking of books to recommend. And the first book is one of my favorites, and it's one that I knew I wanted to like link with this album in particular, and that's Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow by Gabrielle Zevin. The reason that I feel like this goes together is that this is a lot about like a relationship between two people in different like modes of connection, I guess. They meet each other really young, they reconnect in college, they start designing a video game together, and it's about this like really deep love and really deep like friendship that is beyond just friendship, but not necessarily a like strictly romantic relationship. I feel like this connects to this album in the way that it's written and in its themes of like, what does it mean to be an artist? What does it mean to create? What does it mean to collaborate? And I feel like particularly this it just has the vibe. I don't know how to describe it, but it has the vibe that Imaginal Disc gives me. I think it's great. Let's see if any of these blurbs, ooh, I have a bookmark in here, if any of these blurbs can help me out with this. So Erin Morgenstern writes that this is a gem of a novel, intimate yet sweeping, modern yet timeless. Bits of this book lingered in my head the way ghosts of Tetris pieces continue to fall in your mind's eye after playing. I feel like that's just it. That's just it. I'm gonna stop talking about this book because I could go on forever. Another book that I feel like connects to the playfulness and creativity of the album is Jane Unlimited by Kristen Kishore. I recently recommended this because I want to reread this book, but this is about Jane, who is invited to go to her friend's island. Jane's aunt has recently passed away, and her aunt was like, hey, if this friend ever invites you to go to her island, go to the island. It explores genre really interestingly and is just like real good book. Real good read. And I think it's just like plays really well and is a great example of what a playful book looks like without abandoning ideas of like grief and loss and sadness and connection. So I think that this is a really solid one. On the topic of coming into oneself, exploring consciousness, exploring the self, the image, I can't not recommend Orlando by Virginia Woolf. What do you think, Eleanor? Do you think Orlando fits in this? She agrees. Orlando follows Orlando, who is born a young nobleman in Elizabethan time, and then transforms on this journey to some other place that I can't remember at the moment, transforms on this journey into a woman and lives forever, essentially. This book is a lot about how Orlando thinks about themselves, how Orlando thinks about themselves as a artist, as a person, as a lover, and just like very rich in the personal exploration. It's set up as a biography. Because of that, like, I have some issues with this book because it reads like a biography of his historical person, and sometimes that's not what you want to read. But if you're looking for a good again, exploration of the self in a really like creative, gender bent, gender non-conforming way, Orlando's a fun one to give a try. Lastly, we've got some Maggie Nelson. The Argonauts just feels right. Just feels right with this album. This book is very intertextual, very referential to other things, whether it's art, whether it's writing, whether it's philosophy, as much of Maggie Nelson's writing is. And I just think that the way that this explores the way ourselves change over time and the way that ourselves transition in a lot of different ways, whether it's pregnancy, whether it is a gender affirmation transition. Where was I going? That wasn't a full sentence. It's a thing. It's a thing, and I feel like that part of the book matches with the album. This is about Maggie Nelson reflecting on being pregnant as her partner is transitioning. And it says, an insistence on the radical individual freedom and the value of caretaking becomes the rallying cry for this thoughtful, unabashed, uncompromising book. I feel like it just aligns with the album. And I can't not mention Bluets, because there's a song called True Blue Interlude. Boom. Bluets. This is a book of like poetry vignettes about the color blue, about loss, about grief, and I think I just had to mention it. I just had to. Moving away from Magdalena Bay, we also have a lot of Phoenix, particularly from their, is that a 2023 album, Alpha Zulu, which is a bop of an album. I love that album. I love so many songs on there. The ones that come up on my list are Artifact, very good, and All Eyes on Me. I also love Season 2. I think Season 2 is a fun, just like fun time. This album was recorded in a recording studio in the Louvre. I didn't know that, and that's really cool. And so that inspired some of my picks for recommendations for this album. And also it's just a fun time. It makes me want to dance, it makes me want to move, it makes me want to sing along. I don't read a lot of like fun books. I read a lot of sad, melancholic, thoughtful books, and I'd like to read more fun books. So if you're a big Phoenix fan, please recommend me some books that you're like, this gives Phoenix vibes, because I'd love to read them. I have 2 books that I don't own physically that are actually series that for me, I'm like, this is fun. This is fun. The first one is The Cruel Prince by Holly Black. Thematically, I don't know if it matches necessarily, but it is fun. Yeah. And then the other one is the Roper-Moyes, My Baggy Steve Otter. I think this matches a little bit better. I don't know why, but I just feel like it does. And those are my half-baked, half-formed recommendations for that. Because the album was was recorded in the Louvre, essentially. And thinking of the album cover, which like takes an old painting or something, old artwork, and like renews it, I wanted to pick something that has a bit of a historical fiction element, and that is Cloud Cuckoo Land by Anthony Doerr. Love this book. Love Anthony Doerr. I've read all of his books, and I will continue to do so. I'm a fan. I think they're that good. I think they deserve the hype. Anyway, I just feel like this is such a masterfully woven text. The way that it switches between perspectives is done really well. The way that it tells stories is done really well. We have a young girl in very early Constantinople who is supposed to work in embroidering these like very rich cloths, and no, they're like things that priests wear. I don't know. She's supposed to be doing that. Her sister does that. She herself can't. But then she runs around Constantinople and is learning to read Greek from this man. And then we have this playwright in modern day Idaho who's putting on a play with school children. And then we have this very upset young man, who is very clearly neurodiverse, probably autistic, and highly sensitive to the environmental change that's going on around him, and what is happening with his family and his where he's living in Idaho, and like the construction of houses and destruction of natural spaces. And then we have a girl living in this spaceship, let's say, and is dealing with what learning looks like and what libraries look like in space in the future, and is like trying to explore the natural world through like virtual reality, essentially, and is dealing with a pandemic, a sickness that is going through this space station, essentially. Where am I going with this? For whatever reason, I'm like, this gives the vibes. This is the vibes. This is, Anthony Doerr gives Phoenix vibes, but particularly this book. It's so good. It's so good. It's worth it. I know Anthony Doerr can be a little bit overhyped, especially all the light we cannot see, but I feel like if you're into bits of historical fiction, bits of speculative fiction, bits of reality, the love of books, the love of reading, the love of libraries and community spaces, you might want to pick that up. I just put The Martian on here because it's just a fun time. It's a fun time. This is about a Martian who gets stranded on Mars alone, and it is documenting his experience being alone on Mars. Again, this fits the vibe, and I understand that that's a lazy reasoning, a lazy piece of reasoning, but man, it does it for me. You know what else does it for me? The Locked Tomb series. This follows Gideon. I need to reread this book. Hold on. This is science fiction lesbians sword fighting in space. Lesbian necromancer swords space. There's something, I like don't know how to describe it. The darkness of some of the songs, like musically, not necessarily thematically, fits with this. Also, I can just imagine some of the like fighting scenes and some of the tense scenes and some of the like training scenes happening with Alpha Zulu as an album as the background. This follows, I keep trying to tell you what this is about. This follows Gideon, who's trying to escape the planet that she's on. And she's like, get me out of here. And someone's like, nope. Instead, she gets picked up by the Reverend daughter. I like forgot all of the like technical terms. The Reverend daughter of this planet, this house, the ninth house, this planet, to be her cavalier in this thing that they are summoned for, which may end in immortality or death. Those are our options. I will say nothing more. Thank you for listening to that, where I was like, this is just the vibe. It's the vibe. If you like Phoenix, those are the vibes. That's the vibe. Let's talk about Loner, which is an album by Caroline Rose. Really like Caroline Rose. So the songs that come up for me are Soul Number 5, which is such a, it's a banger. Soul Number 5, More of the Same, Getting to Me. Yeah, I don't know what to tell you. I don't know when this album came out. I haven't done that much research on it. Let's see. Let's do a quick little dig. Thank you for your patience. Okay, so here's what I found out. So instead of trying to create a cohesive, like, here's an album, it's cohesive. It has a storyline. My apologies for that. This is more of a collection of songs that each represent Caroline Rose, or each kind of show a different element of her personality, stylistic interests, musical interests, etc. There was something where it's like a quote that was like, I'm just as much inspired by Justin Timberlake and Britney Spears as I am by 70s pop. And I'm like, I love that a lot. So my thing with these songs is that they all seem to do like really interesting things musically and stylistically, while narratively they're kind of mundane. They're like, I'm forgetting, I think it's More of the Same Thing, very like about the mundane life, about just like what happens. So these are some books that I'm like, this feels like it fits. So first of all, we have A Dream of a Woman by Casey Plett. Love. This is a collection of short stories. I actually have 2 collections of short stories on here. This is a collection of short stories that looks at the experience predominantly of trans women and different, again, just like mundanity, but also like pain and ache and like shimmering little moments of joy and moments of self-realization and moments of self-love. And just, I think it's really rich. It's really rich. I need to get my own copy is what I'm realizing, because I really love that book. The other short story collection is one that I don't actually love that much, but there are stories in here that I'm like, I can't get you out of my head. And that is A Guide to Being Born by Ramona Osbal. There are stories in here that are just like, have probably altered my brain for the better. These stories are all normal-ish, like normal-ish life, but speculative. So we have a woman who's pregnant and her husband, instead of having like, what's the thing, like sympathy pains, he constructs this like set of drawers in his chest that he can open and like put things in. They're like skin drawers. I know that sounds really weird, because it is, but it's like cool. My favorite story is about love and the way that every time you fall in love you grow another limb. Wow, conceptually beautiful, also very like well executed, just not all of them hit for me, but the ones that did really did. Anyway, I feel like this does something in terms of like taking the mundane and also funkifying it, I guess. Not funk as in a genre, but like spicing it up and attacking it with synthesizers. So that's what I think. Another book I have to recommend is a play called The Flick by Annie Baker. This is about a rundown movie theater and 3 people who work there, and I think that this just has the tone of, again, something mundane but really like rich mundanity. Their tiny battles and not so tiny heartbreaks play out in the empty aisles, becoming more gripping than the lackluster second run movies on screen. I just feel it. I feel it with this one. Lastly, we have Pilgrim at Tinker Creek by Annie Dillard. Ooh, we got 2 Annies. This is nonfiction, creative nonfiction, about Tinker Creek, kind of in the style of Walden, taking just like these moments of witnessing nature, whether is this the one that has the moth? I want to say there's something about a moth in here, but just does some like great exploration of nature and the wondrous yet ultimately mundane things that happen that we can observe. Love, love, love. Okay, so those are the 3 albums. Those are my 3 album recommendations and recommendations for albums. Loner by Caroline Rose, Imaginal Disc by Magdalena Bay, Alpha Zulu by Phoenix. Go take a listen. Maybe we have the same music taste. Maybe we don't. That's okay. Next up, we have this song that I've been listening to on repeat called Spiral by Y Oak. And I love a good circular, cyclical, like hypnotic song. So I have a couple of books that feel like they're good for this. One of them is In the Dream House by Carmen Maria Machado. And I picked this because it has this like retelling or reapproaching nature. This is about Carmen Maria Machado's experience with abuse in a partnership, in a queer relationship. And it takes different forms and different approaches to telling that story. So it's like Dream House as Man versus Self, Dream House as spy thriller, Dream House as House in Florida, and has this kind of like cyclical and spiraling structure, which makes a lot of sense content-wise and makes a lot of sense in how it like connects to this song. I should reread this, but the last time I read this, I was ruined. It put me in a good bad mood, but it was a very intense mood. I would also recommend Ali Smith in this like cyclical, spiraling, self-referential type of vibe. So the first Ali Smith that I ever read is Artful. My grandpa recommended this to me, and this follows the loss of a partner. Yeah, Artful is narrated by a character who is haunted literally by a former lover, the writer of a series of lectures about art and literature. This is nonfiction. This is like essay-esque, memoir-esque, and just, if you're an artist, I would recommend this. Like, kind of similarly to Tomorrow, like, do it. Yeah, this is about Ali Smith reflecting on art, reflecting on selfhood, reflecting on loss, and doing so in her Ali Smith way, which I feel like is most prominently talked about in terms of her seasonal quartet. This is Autumn, which explores characters during Brexit in the UK. And this one follows Elizabeth and Daniel, who Daniel's a very old man, Elizabeth is a young person, and then later scholar. And again, looks at art, looks at what it means to exist as a person and why we need art. Feels right. I would also recommend I'm Thinking of Ending Things by Ian Reid. If not, simply for the repetition of I'm thinking of ending things. So very successful use of repetition in a book. Love. I'm thinking of ending things is about this couple that is driving to visit the man's parents, and they're driving through a snowstorm, and things get weird. It's like literary horror, but like psychologically horror. The other book or story I would recommend is Story of Your Life by Ted Chiang. This is about scientists and linguists who are making contact with an alien, or like, yeah, an alien race, and trying to understand how they work and how to communicate with them. This story looks a lot at the difference between like sequential versus instantaneous, or like simultaneous orders of understanding, orders of thinking, orders of whatever. Oh my gosh, I'm trying to speed this up because I've been talking for half an hour. The last singular song that I want to talk about is Sabrina Carpenter's Don't Smile. I will not be taking judgment on the fact that this is the Sabrina Carpenter that I've been listening to on repeat. I have two classics that I want to recommend if you are really into Sabrina Carpenter's like sad girl song, because most of her song is like bye, just bye, but this one is like, hey, don't you forget about me. Anyway, don't smile because it happened, baby cry because it's over. First we have Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte. Obviously, this is about Emily. No, it's not. This is about Kathy and Heathcliff, who have this relationship since they're young. Iconic, heartbreak, haunting. I feel like Sabrina Carpenter would be it's me, I'm Kathy, come home. Would be, sorry, just spoiler, would connect with that song. The other classic that I want to recommend is Persuasion by Jane Austen. I feel like this gives Don't Smile vibes. This is about Anne, who is persuaded to not marry the love of her life by her awful family. We hate her family. Yeah. She's in love with this man, and they're like, he's a sailor. He's going to work for the Navy. He's not good enough. Don't marry him. And she's like, are you sure? And they're like, yeah, we're sure. And so she doesn't marry him. And she regrets it her whole life. But then someone comes back in the picture and she's like, is this my second chance? Is this my second chance? Is this my don't smile because it happened, cry because it's over? Yes. Okay. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you have any recommendations music-wise based on particularly the albums that I shared, or book-wise based on, again, the albums that I shared and the books that I shared, please let me know. This is my little on repeat recommendation video. I plan to do more of these as the year goes on, as my music changes, as new stuff comes out, as I get attached to new things. But thank you so much for watching. I'll see you when I see ya.